Hey guys, so today I want to paint a cat. So meet Thomas. He's a beautiful gray cat. Today's lesson is going to be mostly about the fur. I want to have the whole sheet of paper wet from the back and from the front. This technique allows to work longer on your washes, but it's not really useful for some other things. So it is really good when you're painting furry animals, flowers. The skies are really good. So when you're painting some really puffy clouds, because obviously this technique allows for the paint to spread nicely and create beautiful washes when the paint mixes together and there are no hard edges. So what you do, you basically wet the paper from both sides. You can actually use the water right from the tap or faucet. You can use the water from a bottle. You can spray it, but the main point is you have to use it from both sides. And when you do it from the back, you see what I'm doing here. I'm checking whether there are some bubbles underneath, and you have to use your brush to spread water evenly at the back of the sheet of paper, because if you leave out some spots, they're gonna pop. They're not gonna stick to the surface. So you wet the back of the paper, and then of course you wet the front of the paper. You have to spread the water nicely. The paper is going to become really soft and is going to be ready to receive paint. The main thought here is I want to use warmer colors on his back, and I want to use neutral colors on his face and some cooler colors in the shadow area. The next thing I want to pay attention here to is the actual locks of fur. Even though our paper is really wet and the paint is going to spread really nicely, and each brush stroke is going to become a lot wider. It's usually at least 2-3 times wider than when you put that brush stroke on the paper. You want to still start sort of hinting on the fur locks. So if you really want to create nice fur, you have to start using your brush in the directional manner. You look at the reference and you try to repeat those rhythms of the fur. I try to apply different brush work. I spread the bristle of the brush. I splay it against the palette so I can start implying some smaller hairs in the fur. So I tried here, splay the brush and try to imply. You see the strokes already leave behind some individual little furs, so I can start working on the fur in more detail. And as it usually goes, I try a few more strokes, and maybe I look at the reference and try to figure out maybe I should add something here and there. I see that the top of the sheet, as I said before, is already losing moist, so I can start working on the lighter fur locks. And I use not a watercolor brush for this, because I want to start implying really more detailed, fine fur locks. And for this, I don't want to use big brush, and I want it to be harder than my regular watercolor brush. So I use acrylic brush. It's a flat brush, so I just start dabbing it and picking up some paint with a dry brush. And for dabbing the brush, you can use hand towels or any other towel, hand paper, whatever you call it. But with every brush stroke, when you pick up some pigment, you have to dab it, because it picks up moisture, and if you go back there, it's not gonna be too helpful. So this is the part where I look back and forth at the reference and trying to see and figure out where are those lighter areas situated, lighter areas of fur, and I'm trying to start implying them on my piece. I'll continue going around the subject and picking up pigment. I'll speed it up a little bit. Just going around the subject and looking at the reference, trying to work on details. Another sip of tea, just enjoy the process, because it takes some time and it's a sort of meditation for me. I love working with watercolor, and I love green tea, so I combine it and you have happiness squared. I notice that the paper is already dry enough, so soon I'm going to be ready to work with darker values and using darker tones to work on darker fur. I'm constantly using a little different approaches to brush work. Sometimes I use the brush motion from top to bottom, sometimes the other way around, like in here, because it really creates a little different effects. And this from bottom to the top is really useful when you're trying to work on the border fur locks, so the locks that are kind of encircling your subject. You should work from outside to inside. The paper is already lost enough moist, so I can start using darker values. And if you want to have really nice fur texture, at this stage you start spreading the brush bristles, splaying the brush against the palette, and use it the way I'm using here. Start using the brush strokes with the wavy motion, and try to repeat the rhythms of the fur locks that you are about to paint. And again, remember, less is more. Just be careful, remember not to overwork it. Stay calm and relax and enjoy the process.